What's up, YouTube? Back again with another video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than maybe some of the other videos I made recently, and that's because I really haven't made a whole lot of videos recently. But something that I really care about and that I want to talk about today, it was suggested to me by one of the commenters, and honestly, I can't say their name, otherwise I would try to and give them a little shout out. But shout out to you, you know who you are. Today's video is going to be about discrimination and some things that I've experienced in my lock journey. And honestly, I think this can apply to more than just locks. It can even be natural hair because I've experienced it both ways. So it's something I definitely wanted to touch on today, and hopefully you guys enjoy the video. I just want a disclaimer real quick also. This video may be a little longer than my normal videos, but bear with me, there is a point to it. All right, and without further ado, let's get started. So it's really hard. I don't even know where to start, but I guess I'll start with telling you guys a handful of stories about a few experiences and kind of my opinions on, what's going on. First, I'll start with this. When I very first started my lock journey, all the way back when I had my freeform lock set, the first freeform lock set that I had, a long time ago, like 2 years ago now, I was working at a major company in Las Vegas. They're the biggest employer in Las Vegas. I'm sure you can look that stuff up. I'm not going to say their name here because they're kind of a shady company, so I'm going to leave them out of this. But just know I was doing security, and it was something that, it was a job that I kind of enjoyed, if only for being able to kind of not be watched by people most of the time. And so I figured, I might as well start my lock journey. And that lock journey was really a fun lock journey. I missed the way those locks looked. And but I can guarantee you, those supervisors that I had when I worked there do not miss it. Well, they didn't miss it. I quit there, but they didn't miss it. Reason being, it was just really untamed, and for a lot of people it was a problem because you're supposed to look kind of professional. This is one of the premier companies. You're supposed to look professional at all times, and unfortunately there's a stigma around freeform locks as being dirty and untamed, and locks in general, really natural hair in general, really being untamed and not being a professional look, which I wholeheartedly disagree with. It's bullshit because, and I'm not trying to throw race into this, but a white boy can grow his hair as long as he wants, as long as he, brushes it and pulls it out of his face, he looks fine. If I grow my locks and pull them out of my face, it's a problem. If I grow my natural hair and pull it out of my face, it's a problem. I'm not really even understanding why it's like this, but it is a lot of discrimination. Now they were more lenient. They didn't give me really any problems, but I did get a lot of backhanded comments the entire time I was there about my hair and why I look homeless in a uniform. And to be honest with you, I'm not somebody that gets their feelings hurt. I never have been. That's just kind of how I am. And it was more just an irritation type thing where it was like a pain in the ass. I didn't even want to see these people most days because I didn't want to hear the bullshit. I didn't want to hear the complaints about my hair when, in my opinion, it's just nonsense. And why are you going to complain? It's hair, bruh. It's hair. So that was my first experience with it. And, it even went before that when I was growing my hair, when I was growing my afro, because I grew my hair for an entire year and a half before I started my locks. And I think I actually got more complaints then than I did when I started my lock journey, at least at first, with them just saying, when are you going to cut your hair? And it was always that question: when are you going to cut your hair? When are you going to cut your hair? And it's like, I'm not going to cut my hair. I'm not going to cut my hair ever again. And that's something I'm sticking to. I'm not going to cut my hair ever again. I still do this taper in the sides, if anything, because I don't think I can grow it at this point. My hair is so much longer than the sides, but that's something that I'm going to stick to. I'm not going to cut my hair unless I start to go bald. I'm not going to cut my hair. So it was just frustrating that was the experience that I had, but it really wasn't that bad. Fast forward though to some interviews, some job interviews that I had, and I had a lady, and again, I'm not going to blast any companies in this video. That's not what I do. But I had a lady sit across the table from me and basically tell me, cut your hair or you're not getting a job. And I said, peace. I'm out. I'm not going to do it. For me, it's a spiritual thing, but it's also just something that I want to do. It's something that I wanted to prove to myself that I could stick with something. I'm not known for sticking with things in my life. And, my lock journey has taught me how to do that. So it's frustrating when people, do that kind of stuff and say that kind of stuff. And it made me wonder, I had locks at the time. I didn't have an afro, but it made me wonder if other people, with natural hair had the same experience with this lady. And I felt like it was extremely racist and just really discriminatory, to tell me basically, you have to have a one cut or you can't be here. You got to get a fresh taper or you can't be here. Like, what the fuck does anybody care? What the fuck do the customers care how I look? Am I helping them or am I not helping them? If I'm not helping them, then I'm obviously not qualified for the job. But if I'm helping them, what the fuck does it matter how I look? And for me, it's like, I have tattoos all over my hands. I'm already somebody that, looks should not be an issue. If you're going to hire me, you're going to hire me because I have a strong resume, not because of how I look. So that baffled me. So that was another thing. And I'm going to talk about now the worst experience. And it's actually one that I get mad about, because it was a lot of shit going on in the company that I work for. I work for a construction company locally. I think that was like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now. And first and foremost, they hired me without knowing who I was. They didn't ever see me. It was kind of a sight unseen type of thing. It was through word of mouth. I'm not trying to boost my ego here, but I'm known to be a hard worker. I work hard. I have 3 kids. I have my kids young. So, if I dedicate myself to something, I'm going to work as hard as possible at it, and that experience really pissed me the fuck off, man. It was so bad. I've never experienced something like that outside of just straight up overt racism, which is part of what this was. First and foremost, they didn't know I was black. And that was a problem somehow, because there was only one other black employee that worked there who, wouldn't you know, also had locks. And wouldn't you know, they also pressured him on the regular to cut his hair, which was nonsense. And I remember first day team meeting, they went around and introduced everybody, and I talked to him at length, probably like 30 minutes, and he just said, watch out, bro, because they're gonna bitch about you, with your hair and all of that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of racism in this company, and they're gonna say a lot of stuff that you're not gonna like, and the money's worth it though, so just stick with it because the money's worth it. And in the beginning, I put up with it. It started with little, backhanded comments like, just little things like, I heard somebody had said, and again, I'm not trying to blast people, so I'm not going to say names and I'm not going to say who they were, but he had commented to me that I looked like I had been drugged behind a truck because my hair was sticking up because my locks were all over the place that day. And to me, I kind of looked back at him and was just like, whatever, man, I'm not gonna engage this, because I believe firmly that when people say bullshit like this, they want a reaction out of you. They want to know that you were hurt by what they said. And giving people reaction is the best way for them to continue doing it, because you're validating what they're saying. You're giving them a voice and validating the bullshit that they're saying by giving them a reaction. And I live by that in all facets of my life. When it comes to politics, when it comes to, everything. I've experienced these types of things throughout my entire life. I've lived a lot of different places, and I was born in a town, a really small town that was extremely racist. And so I've dealt with this stuff my whole life. And I think one of the biggest pieces of wisdom that my father taught me was never give people a reaction. Don't give them what they're looking for, because the second you give them what they're looking for, they'll never stop, because you're validating the shit that they're saying. So I didn't give him a reaction. I didn't give him what he was looking for. And I could tell that it bothered him, and he doubled down on it by then telling my supervisor at the time, that basically, if I wasn't going to cut my hair and if I wasn't going to brush my hair, then, I straight up looked like a nigger. And that bugged the fuck out of me. I'm not even going to lie. It bugged the fuck out of me because, here are all of these people. And the part that bugged the fuck out of me the most is he was a person of color. And I'm going to touch on something briefly. Why do other people of color hate on each other so fucking much, man? It's baffling to me. If you see another person of color trying to come up and make their way, why do you hate on them? Why do you give them hate? Why do you give them grief? And why do you give other racist people a platform to discriminate against people with? I don't get that. You shouldn't be doing that. We're all supposed to be together, and you shouldn't be doing this kind of shit. And yet here I was, and this dude is literally, nonstop with this shit every single day. And I ignored it, and I ignored it, and I ignored it. And this was during the time, if you followed me on Instagram, I went quiet on YouTube for a while. This was during the time when a lot of shit was happening in my life. I had gotten arrested. I was dealing with a lot of stuff. And so this was just one more thing that I had to deal with. And at that point, mentally, I wasn't in a place where I felt prepared to deal with overt racism on top of the already shit that I was dealing with. Which maybe one day I'll talk about it, but honestly, you guys, it's just a touchy subject for me. It's something that I don't like to talk about very often, but I was just dealing with so much shit during that time, and I really didn't have, a direction in my life at that point. And so, it was just frustrating that on top of all of that, I had somebody who day one was like, oh, here's another brown face in the workplace. Here's another black face in the workplace. Let's come together. And then immediately started in with like overt racism, as though somehow he was trying to impress, our boss, because we had a mutual supervisor at the time. And I just didn't understand why people have to be like that. It doesn't make sense to me. And so, it got worse and worse. I ended up brushing my hair out. And it wasn't because of them that I brushed my hair out. I was already having, kind of like just dissatisfaction with where my locks were headed. And so, I kind of tried to kill two birds with one stone by brushing my hair out and, kind of doing something that I wanted to do anyways. And in doing that, it got worse. I don't even understand it. It got worse. And that's when I decided I'm never going to fucking try to please anybody again. If it's not for me, fuck it. I'm not going to do it. And I know that's a selfish thing to say, but fuck it, man. Because people are so hateful in this world that the second they can latch onto something, they just run with it. And they just keep going. And they keep pushing it further and further and further. And that's exactly how the situation was. And, it went from that. Once I brushed my hair out, then they started bitching that I had too much hair and all of that, and that it was just too much and it was giving the wrong look, which, excuse me, what kind of look are you trying to portray with your company? It's a fucking construction company. Nobody cares. You dig the ditch, you fill the ditch in, you move on. It doesn't matter. Construction is really that easy. By the way, if you want an easy job, construction is there for you. But it bugged the shit out of me to the point where towards the end, all of the racist comments that I constantly was receiving, all the discriminatory comments that I was receiving, I got so sick of it that at one point there was another situation going on at work, and I just straight up didn't answer my phone. And I was MIA for like 2 hours. And I'm not suggesting that you guys do this. This was just me kind of, having an attitude problem, and at the same time being just fed up and sick of the bullshit. And then when I finally did call my boss, he was screaming and yelling at me, and I pretty much quit on the spot. I brought the truck back, I parked it in the lot, and I never came back. And that might have been one of the best decisions I could make, because I was so extremely unhappy at that job that the money didn't matter. I was making really good money, and it didn't matter at all, because it was just such a terrible workplace environment. And, it's crazy that workplace environments can be like that. And because it was a family-owned business, it's not like I can go to the boss and say, hey, this is what's happening, because he was co-signing on this shit. And so that's what made it worse. So, we parted ways, and I went about my own thing. And here comes to the next experience, which is almost the polar opposite. I started working for another company, like last year, that is just completely different than that. I went in the interview. Not once, interestingly enough, it was another person of color that interviewed me. Not once did she bring up my appearance, because I looked rough at the time, because I hadn't had a job for a little while. And so I didn't really have any money in my pocket, so I didn't look very clean. I tried to dress nice, but that was the best I could do at the time. And, she never once mentioned anything about my hair. She never once mentioned anything about my appearance. She never once mentioned anything about my tattoos. There was nothing like that. And the entire time that I've worked for this company, while I don't exactly like the job, the company itself, I've just noticed and realized that it shouldn't be like that, because this company doesn't do this kind of shit. They never make comments on the way that I look. As long as I help the people I'm supposed to help, that's all that matters. They don't give a shit how I look. They don't care if I continue to get more and more tattoos that are in visible spots. They just don't care. I've never once felt any type of racism or discrimination in the workplace while I've worked there, which is surprising, because a lot of workplaces are like that. In my experience, I've had a lot of jobs, and with the exception of maybe one or two other jobs, one of which was working for my own father, so you can go figure. I've just never had experiences that were positive like that. Now, that being said, I'll kind of want to touch on, and I know this video is long, but bear with me, guys. I kind of want to touch on why I think it's like this. Now, number one, I think it's like this because ultimately anything that's different, people find intimidating. They find it scary. And when you find something scary, you either A, run from it. And when that's not an option in the workplace, because obviously they're not going to quit their job just because a new guy got hired, then number two comes out, which is the hatefulness and the pressuring and all of the stuff that comes along with that. And unfortunately, we as people of color and those of us in the Loc community, those of us that wear our hair naturally, we play into it by succumbing to, you know, the hate or succumbing to the pressure to cut your hair, to conform to a standard that's been very arbitrarily set for us. And, you know, it's not something that I believe is fair, but at the same time, you know, you create your own monster. And unfortunately, to a certain extent, we as a people have created our own monster by playing into it. Now, I'm not trying to place blame on us. All I'm saying is we do have to shoulder a part of the burden when it comes to that, because I see it a lot. I see guys do it all the time. Oh, they won't hire me unless I cut my hair, so I'm gonna cut my hair. Man, if it's all of that, then you have to decide, is it the locks? Is it the natural hair? Is it that motivates you, or is it having money? If it's money, I ain't gonna hate on you because everybody needs it. But for me, I've decided in my life that my time is worth more than just another dollar. You know, I want to be happy in my life. And part of being happy is being satisfied with who you are and your identity. And if you're not satisfied with who you are and your identity, as I've come to find out, having jobs that paid a lot, it doesn't matter. You're still going to be unhappy in your life. Number two reason why I think that this, this situation continues to perpetuate is because you have some people that just do wild shit for no reason. And they look like us, you know. You have people that they bring a negative connotation along with the culture. And unfortunately, you know, there's not a whole lot we can do about that. Society is what society is. And I don't believe at this point that there's not a whole lot we can do to change it other than being the person that you want to be. If that's what you do, again, I ain't gonna hate on you, man. Everybody has their hustle. Everybody has their grind. Lord knows I've had mine, but I would caution you to say this. Think about what you're doing before you do it, because you don't understand the kind of effects it can have on other people. It's not you that it's going to affect. 9 times out of 10, when you do stupid shit, you're not the one that pays for it. It's the people around you. And in this case, I firmly believe that a lot of times the stupid shit that people do, we all pay for it. It's not them. 9 times out of 10, it's not them. It's us. You know, they might go to jail, but the rest of us got to deal with their circumstances afterwards and the negativity that they bring with them. So I would encourage you guys, and, you know, it's one of the things that I talk about with people from time to time who ask me about getting locks. Think about what you want in life, because locks are a commitment, locks are a journey, locks are a lot of things, but they're not something that you can do and then reverse really easily. It took me 3 or 4.5 days to brush my last set of locks out, and that was no small task. That was 3 or 4.5 days of straight up every time I was home combing out locks. It took 4 fucking ever, and it was a pain in the ass. So that being said, I don't want to drone on and on in this video, but it's something that I think is important. I think that as a community, we have to stand strong to pressure, because there's a lot of people in your life that are going to pressure you to do a lot of things. And this is one of those petty ass things that I can't stand, man. It's just fucking hair. It's not like because I have the locks, I'm a certain type of person. I just have locks. If I'm a certain type of person, it's independent of my hair. It's just who I want to be, And unfortunately, people are going to put 1 and 2 as the same. And they're really not. It's 2 different things. It's 2 different realities. But you've got to understand that there are a lot of ignorant people out there, especially when you get into corporate America, that don't give a fuck about the truth. They just want to have their preconceived notions. And anytime we validate those with a reaction, with hate, with hurt, with any of that, you're validating their opinions about you, and you're giving them power over your life. Power is the most important thing. And when you give somebody else your power, it never stops. I'm going to refer to something that I always say. I don't think I've said on my YouTube channel, but I say it a lot in conversation. If you give a pig a pancake, he'll want maple syrup. If he wants maple syrup, he'll get all sticky. Then he'll want to take a bath. Then he'll be cold, so he'll take your shower or your towel. Once he takes your towel, he's going to want your blanket. He'll sleep in your bed, so on and so forth. When you give somebody power over you, you're giving them everything. You know, once you give them your power, they will want more and more and more. It won't end. You're not going to satiate people by cutting your hair. Once you do that, then it's going to be something else. I promise you that it's going to be something else. Till it comes down to something as petty as you're just too dark skinned. You're just too black. You're just too this. You're just too that. You're just too ethnic. I've heard all of these things before, and it's bullshit. And the way to nip it in the butt is by not ever letting somebody start with that shit. If you make it clear to people that you're not going to stand for that discrimination has no place for you, and that if that's the way they're going to behave, then they need to get to pushing, then they won't be able to do it. And honestly, even if they do, if you don't give them a reaction, then it's not worth anything to them. You know, one of the worst things you can do in your life is let bullies push you around, you know, period. And that's what this is. It's low key, it's bullying. And I'm a grown man. I don't get bullied. So that's what I got to say on that, man. You know, there's probably other parts of it that I haven't touched. And what I really want to know, you know, down in the comments, you guys, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, and I appreciate you if you did, because it's like 25 minutes long. It's insane. But if you made it to the end of this video, please leave me your experiences, your opinion, your take. Even if you disagree with me, it's all welcome. I want to have a discussion about this with you guys, because I think it's a topic that is rarely touched on in an intelligent way. It's normally, you know, just people bitching about it without any solution. And I want to tell you the solution is not to play into the shit. If you play into it, it's only going to get worse. Anyways, you guys, it's been a long video. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I know this isn't my normal type of shit. I'll get back to that. But, you know, I just really felt like I needed to talk about this after seeing that comment. You guys have a wonderful day. One love to the Loc Nation. Peace.